The mother wound is basically the wound that a developing child who's now an adult still has consciously or unconsciously in attachment with the mother figure. Now, a mother wound is also unconsciously a product of a father wound, and a father wound is also unconsciously a product of a mother wound. But there are not a lot of therapists who will be able to tell you that or show you that, because in my opinion, a lot of them don't understand developmental psychology enough and how a child actually connects and tunes into different energies, and how each parent, we as children sometimes can look at one parent as the hero and one parent as the villain, and not realize that the same parent who was a hero was unconsciously also a villain for allowing the parent who was a villain to be a villain. Does that make sense to you guys? And that is the foundation of evolution, because before we were born came a relationship. So in essence, you may not realize this, but we are all a projection of a functional or dysfunctional relationship that came before us. So therefore, we are all raised with a lot of functionality or dysfunctionality that came between both parents. So if we vilified both parents, for example, with me, in my case as well, I think my father and my mother both had huge issues in their own relationship, and we were all basically products of the relationship they created. However, I think, a wound with both parents, but here's the kicker that I want to tell you guys. Predominantly in my studies of what I've looked at in developmental psychology, the feminine, so considering that majority of you here express yourself as the feminine tends to have stronger wounds with the father. However, and this is naturally because in developmental psychology, a girl child is meant to learn from the opposite sex parent, which is the father figure, how to ultimately create or attract partners in her life. Now, however, this same girl child may have issues with her mother and have wounds with, again, what I've noticed is a lot of women tend to have either narcissistic mothers or emotionally abusive mothers, which tends to emotionally avoidant mothers may make a smaller percentage, but emotionally abusive mothers makes a larger percentage. And this again is an expression of the wound that this girl child may have with the mother. However, also an expression the girl child has with the father figure for not being enough of a protector to the children and to the people who can't, basically to the little niños, the kids who couldn't really protect themselves, and vice versa. What I want to break down here, and Alberto talked about this so well when he said, my wife tells me that I don't pick up after myself because I have a mother wound. And he's always like, no, it's just because I don't have fucking maybe good behavioral traits or habits or whatever. But the truth is, and this is maybe new for some of you guys, is where do we learn that? We learn those behavioral habits or traits or characteristics, or including beliefs of ourselves in our earliest years as children, when our subconscious minds are most active. And if we observe, or if we are exposed to certain behaviors or conditions, so let's say our parents are emotionally unavailable, let's say our parents are emotionally abusive, let's say our parents are emotionally neglectful, or emotionally, let's say not even emotionally, even physically, or even let's say our parents are so wounded in their own mindsets that they need to have narcissistic behaviors to survive, then all of this is what the child absorbs for themselves. But when they observe it and attach from it coming from one particular parental figure, that's the figure that they tend to associate with this dominant wound, whether it's a mother wound or a father wound. And this can be as simple as, my mother didn't instill in me enough confidence for me to take care of myself, pick up for myself, to show up for myself as a developing child in different ways. And it can go all the way to the other end, where my mother was so emotionally abusive and made me play small and shrink my identity so much because she was afraid of her own. It can also swing to the other side, where my mother made me have to push and prove myself so much just to get an ounce of love or validation from her, because without that, I was nobody to her. So it can stretch across a whole spectrum of things. But if the best way to know how this is a wound is to simply ask yourself, is this serving me today or not? That's as much as you need really to ask yourself if this is a wound. Is this hurting me today or not? Is it serving me today or not? Is it creating connection or disconnection in my relationships or not? Is it creating regulation or dysregulation in my life or not? That's enough that you need to basically identify and recognize, is this a mother or a father wound that I have in my life? Hey, and welcome to the Inner Yats YouTube page. If you like our content, make sure you click the like and the subscribe button so that you get more of these amazing videos that keep coming your way.